So you feel that winning mentality there. So the general mood in the camp at this point of the pre-season, really feeling positive, energised.
Yeah, everyone's positive and incredibly enthusiastic. I mean, we're under no illusions that it's not like we're not. We know we've got work to do. We've got Mercedes have done a great running as well. I think Red Bull and Haas did some great running as well. So we don't really know where we are, but I think it's a solid first week, and we can really build from here. So there may be some big leaps that we're going to need to take. Development's going to be key. Just making sure we leave no stone unturned, and we're just really clear and concise with our communication and the decisions we take. And it's going to take all of us to be at our best. And I'm just seeing that everyone's really coming with new energy this year, which is great.
Been a positive one. Obviously the first day was a tricky one because driving on the wet in those conditions wasn't easy, especially with a completely new car, completely new system. So to make sure that everything was working properly in those conditions was very difficult, but I think it's a very good experience and a very valuable experience going forward in case we drive on the wet during a race weekend. We'll at least have that experience already, which is a good thing. And the last 2 days been positive. I mean, again, all the tests we wanted to do, what we had in mind, we did. And now last afternoon with Lewis, which I hope will go through the last couple of things we wanted to try, and then we'll start focusing on bar.
What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton in just 3 days has shaken Ferrari's technical foundations? What exactly did Leclerc see on the telemetry that stumped him? And how is it that the SF26, a car still shrouded in doubt, has surprised even those who designed it? Ferrari arrived in Barcelona with a car that, on paper, had good numbers. A lightweight structure, improved thermal efficiency, recalibrated mass distribution and aerodynamics that promised to adapt to the new regulations. But there were many doubts, and even more pressure. The arrival of Lewis Hamilton was not simply a media signing. It was a bid to break internal paradigms, for questioning what had been done until now, by confronting fixed ideas with pure instinct. And so, over 5 days of testing, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton began their work, both following programs strictly designed to compare real data with simulations. Same configuration, same tires, same loads. The goal was to validate, see if the SF26 behaved as expected. And for the first few days, everything seemed as planned, until the final day arrived. That last day of testing was not just a fast day, it was a turning point. It was the moment where the SF26 stopped being a concept on paper and began to reveal what it could be in the hands of the right pilot, with the right approach at the right time. What happened in the Ferrari pit after the last test session was simply a technical shock. Behind closed doors, without cameras, without official statements, Maranello Engineering experienced one of its most intense days since the development of the SF26 began. Everything revolved around a set of data that, under normal conditions, the simulation should have confirmed. But what they received back was an anomaly. Or at least that's what they thought at first. Lewis Hamilton, running a series of simulations parallel to those of Charles Leclerc, had delivered telemetry that completely broke the expected behavior pattern of the SF26. With the same fuel configuration, tires, downforce, and climate, the Briton had been systematically half a second faster per lap. But it wasn't a difference based on pure aggressiveness behind the wheel. It was not a simple question of line or quick braking. It was something deeper. Something that forced us to question the foundations of how that car was understood. The technical team began to superimpose curves, to compare torque maps, to review the use of the ERS in critical areas of the track, to examine how and when each pilot activated the X and Z aerodynamic modes, which allow the behavior of the rear wing and the flows through the side channels to be varied in real time. Hamilton's telemetry revealed a surgical pattern. He executed the aerodynamic activation right at the allowed threshold, not a second before or after. Not as a reactive action, but as a strategic decision at every turn. This made it possible to maintain the necessary load in fast areas, release it instantly in transition areas, and maximize cornering efficiency without sacrificing exit speed. But there was more. Under braking in turn 1, for example, Hamilton used a more aggressive energy recovery mode, diverting some of the braking to the MGUK system to gain regeneration without losing stability. It was an approach that theoretically put rear axle grip to the limit. But in practice, it generated enough traction to gain between 0.06 and 0.08 seconds in that single sector. And he did it lap after lap, without further degradation or overheating. In the intermediate sector, between turn 3 and the long parabolic before the chicane, the difference became even more revealing. Hamilton not only drew better, it was capable of sustaining more stable electrical power levels, allowing high top speeds to be maintained without draining the batteries before the last sector. In Leclerc's data, by contrast, the energy curve dropped earlier, forcing him to sacrifice power in the final stretch. Not by mistake, but because his use of the hybrid system was more conservative, more in line with the protocol suggested by the engineers. And here the real dilemma emerged. Was Hamilton disobeying the pre-established technical model? Or was he simply revealing that that model was too limited? During an internal meeting, one of the simulation heads posited that Hamilton had, in essence, rewritten the SF26 operational window. A car that until then was understood as delicate in mixed zones and restrictive in energy regeneration, had proven to be the opposite. But only in the hands of the British. It was not a question of feeling or abstract talent. It was a question of interpreting data in real time, something that Hamilton has perfected in years of experience under high-demand structures such as Mercedes. Instead of accepting the limitations imposed by the simulator and standard settings, he reinterpreted them based on precise dynamic sensations. A striking example was observed on lap 19 of the race simulation, when Hamilton noticed a slight loss of stability at the rear at high speed, just after activating the Z aerodynamic mode. Any other driver would have assumed it was track turbulence or loss of load. Hamilton called for a real-time hybrid mapping change, suggesting a partial redistribution of power to the front axle during that stretch. What seemed like a minor suggestion turned out to be one of the keys that stabilized the car on long runs. The data confirmed it. It was replicable, and until then, unknown. In one of the most in-depth analyses carried out after the tests, the engineers compared the data of Leclerc and Hamilton lap by lap. Not only in speed, but in technical gestures, corner entry patterns, braking loads, rotation points, and energy distribution. What they found was not a difference in quality, it was a difference in philosophy. Charles Leclerc is a classic product of the Ferrari school. Trained within the structure from lower categories, his driving has been polished to maximize the correlation between simulator and track. Each corner entry is measured, each traction zone is treated as a mathematical variable. Its overlapping technique of keeping the brake pedal lightly pressed while applying the accelerator allows you to keep the car rotating without overloading the rear tires. It is a refined technique, designed to extract minimum cornering speed without compromising stability. This way of driving requires surgical precision. Any deviation, a gust of crosswind, an imperfection in the asphalt, a difference of half a degree in tire temperature can destabilize Leclerc's balance. Its piloting is like a taut rope. Extremely efficient if kept stretched, but easy to break if loaded with an unforeseen variable. This makes him one of the fastest drivers on a lap, especially in familiar conditions. But it also exposes you to abrupt drops in performance when the car doesn't perform exactly as modeled. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, does not try to dominate the car. He interprets it. He listens to it. His style has been shaped by more than a decade facing rule changes, imperfect cars, and chaotic strategic contexts. Instead of seeking Leclerc's symmetrical perfection, Hamilton immerses himself in the car's behavior lap after lap, adjusting his approach like a musician changing tempo depending on the rhythm of the instrument. Its layout is not always the most orthodox, nor the cleanest in the raw data. But its consistency, especially in changing conditions, is unmatched. Where Leclerc executes the perfect lap in a perfect environment, Hamilton extracts a winning lap in imperfect conditions. That is the fundamental difference. And in a car like the SF26, designed under new rules that have disrupted the traditional balance with active aerodynamics, new hybrid distribution, and lower mechanical load, that flexibility becomes a lethal weapon. In areas such as the exit of turn 3 or braking before the final chicane, the sensors recorded a clear difference. Hamilton activated areas of the car's hybrid modes, aileron management at times when Leclerc still remained cautious. And most importantly, he did it with confidence. Instead of braking early to ensure stability, Hamilton analyzed each lap as a test. He observed how the car responded to a slight variation in brake pressure or electrical torque release. While Leclerc sought to confirm data, Hamilton tried to break it, to push the limits of the car to discover new behaviors. That difference in approach led engineers to a puzzling conclusion. The SF26 was being driven at two different depth levels. A safe, optimized one that validated the expected performance, and another, experimental, aggressive but revealing, that opened doors to a new dimension of performance not originally contemplated. In other words, while Leclerc measured the car, Hamilton expanded it. Maranello has to decide not only how to evolve its car, but how to balance its driver ecosystem without destroying internal harmony. Because if one of the two feels that the development of the SF26 favors the other, if it is perceived that there is a pilot who dictates the direction while the other must adapt, then the tension will cease to be technical and will become political. And Ferrari has learned throughout its turbulent history that internal political conflicts are the biggest enemy of its track performance. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.